Today's episode is sponsored by the New Jersey vs. Valhalla Festival, which is coming up quick on June 8th, 2024, in Flemington, New Jersey at Flemington DIY. The fest features some of today's best screamo and hardcore bands, including Masanera, Trophy Hunt, Pottersfield, Dead Sure, Respirator, Stress Spells, Mount Ida, Seven Crimson Suns, Permanent Tension, Kiandi Ameda, and Half Cross. That's June 8th, 2024 at Flemington DIY in Flemington, New Jersey. Hit up Mount Ida on Instagram for more details at _mt.ida_. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you that we have a Patreon page where you can sign up to support the show. For $3, you can sign up and get instant access to all of the zines we've released, exclusive music, and more. That's patreon.com/human machine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Hedonist by Second Impact, featuring my new pal, Juni Morantes, on vocals. The song comes off their debut EP, Effigy, which you can find on venmo.
When I started getting confident in my artistic ability and I felt like, I deserved to take up space in the scene and like really give it a go, because I really beat myself up and I would do little solo things and kind of hide away, and I was like, no one would ever really want to hear, what I was just really insecure as a youngin'. But I came across I Hate Sex, like, I want to say in like 2016 or like 2017, and they kind of changed so much for me. I just really resonated a lot lyrically with what they were putting out there, and just the feel in general of the music. And that was when I was like really beginning to get more so into scrams and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Felt very inspired by them when I actually started doing music projects and joining bands.
That's awesome. Yeah. Nicole's a friend of mine, and I know that they'd love to hear that. That's yeah. Yeah.
Also, I would say Mortality Rate was another one for me when I was getting into hardcore.
Okay. I'm not familiar with them. Are they local to you?
So that is the vocalist of World of Pleasure's old band.
Okay. So I'm also not familiar with where they're from. Are they not local? It's just like
they're
a band?
Also a Canadian band. These Canadian bands have a grip on me.
Somehow, yeah, as far away from Canada as you could be in the U.S. almost.
I used to be in Texas when I discovered all this.
That's about the same, right? I mean, like
basically.
Yeah. Yeah, Canadian bands. I mean, Canada has like historically had just bands that were kind of like they just stood apart in some way, that were from whatever else was going on. That, not to say that like all these bands in the States or whatever sounded the same, but then you would hear some band that just like took it and really put it on a tilt, and you're like, yeah, they're from Canada, like
They've got some real emos up there. I'll say that.
yeah, for sure. um I mean, I attribute like 95% of my guitar playing to a Canadian inspiration. So yeah, I get it. And I mean, having gone up there and played several times, like it's quite a lovely place. I don't I don't know how bands there like manage to stay so prolific and like travel and stuff, because it's way harder to tour
Right.
like
That's a dream of mine, is to make my way up there. I mean, everything is so crushingly expensive now. Like,
mhm.
I am so in awe and so happy for the bands that still get to get out there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. When we, when we played New Friends Fest last year, we
Ugh.
were we were like, uh we get up there and we had spent like $150 in gas, and it's like barely 8 hours from my house. And I was just like, this is so expensive. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is just wild. Like, because there's no way, like, that I could conceive, like when we used to go on tour, and some shows, like when you're heading to California or whatever, and your next like stop was like 15 hours from now. It's like, that's like, by this same like 150 to get 8 hours is like $300 in gas, like just to the next show. And you're like, you're thinking to yourself, like, out of all of those shows that I played on any tour, like back then, like, to even conceive of getting that amount of money back, it was not happening.
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah, it is wild. And like, yeah, I mean, when you look at bands that do bigger stuff, than just DIY stuff, and you see the stuff about merch cuts and stuff, then you're like, this is out of control. Like, what?
That is like my nightmare, because
Yeah.
our merch is definitely our bread and butter. Like, when we did our first big tour to Texas and uh, a few other states between and back, um, our like we sold out of our merch, which was incredible.
Mhm.
We were also so incredibly lucky and so supported and held by our friends and the scene while we were out there, because we all got sick, and so we had to hole up in my friend's house, and then the van broke down
Oh gosh.
right after, and we're like 1,000+ miles from home, and we had to make a GoFundMe, and it was really, it was a really humbling experience for sure, but I'm so grateful that so many people contributed, because it was a really scary and stressful situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely been in the van broken down on tour situation many times.
What
This
band are you in?
I play in Coma Regalia.
Whoa.
Oh, well, that's the first time anyone's ever done that. But
What? No, no,
um,
y'all are sick.
oh, thank you. Yeah, we thank you. But we've this is pre-COVID, but I've definitely been like, I got like, one time we were going out to California, and I got food poisoning in San Antonio, and and um so
What did
we
you eat in San Antonio? Sorry, I'm from San Antonio, so I'm
okay.
like, oh no.
Well, I mean, we ate like stuff that we would eat any other time, but like, I think that there was just the restaurant we ate at. I think there was just like some unclear, like, I'm not even sure you would call it like food poisoning necessarily, but like, um I think it was unclear whether there was like, some maybe like some chicken or something in something that I ate. And so not having eaten something like that in a long time, like I was like seriously like physically ill
Oh,
for like uh, a day and a half. And we played Albuquerque anyway. I'm just like behind the drum kit at that time, like screaming and playing drums and just like trying not to throw up. And
ugh.
then we got to California and the van like broke down and we were like, oh, fantastic. But I don't
Because
know.
then the mental like crisis sets in too, and you're dealing with just
For sure.
all of it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I was like I'm I'm like I'm sort of like I'm sort of suffer from some bits of agoraphobia and stuff too. So I'm
Mm,
like tr- to go out and play sometimes is like it's only just like that. Hey, you get to do the thing that you love to do more than anything else. Like it's only that carrot that makes it, like pushes me through it, right? So like then we all this stuff happened and we were out there and like I'm just like, I mean, crisis is like the perfect word because I'm just like, I have children at home and I'm like in California like 2 days from my
mm,
family. Like I'm older than anyone at any of these shows, like which is fine most days, until you have that, moment where you're like, oh my God, what am I doing out here? Like,
right.
but I mean, we somehow or another, we got the car back, we got the van back the next day, and we didn't
Thank
miss any
God.
shows. Yeah, I mean, it was a, it was a, it was a big deal, and the repair was like expensive, but like it was not like you had to wait 2 weeks to get this done thing, So
No, thankfully that was kind of the boat we were in too, because
yeah,
people donated so swiftly and we got it into a shop just the right time. We were all feeling pretty shit. And it was free. It was so cold outside, and me and Tyler were just in the van, like in the middle of the street in Denton, and all these drunk people were walking around us, just like, oh, and
oh
we're already
gosh,
feeling
yeah,
horrible. And like we were sleeping at the venue we played at, and they kind of hold us up in a room. Like they had mattresses on the wall, and then they just took the mattresses off the wall, and everybody
probably not the
laying on
first
them,
time they
just
had to do that either.
everybody was just laying on them, and they were like Joel and Otis were in there in a bed just dying together, like. And then we're in the middle of the street having like a big heart to heart, like. But it was so vulnerable. It was so fucking vulnerable. Like everything kind of rided on the kindness of the scene at large
Yeah.
taking care of us in that moment, and I'm eternally grateful because there's nowhere to go. Like you can't just go hide away and be like, "Oh, I'm so upset about this." You're just exposed and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I mean, I say this kind of thing all the time, but it's just like it's incredible to me how I have made like some of the most solid friendships and that some of the most important people in my life are because I randomly played a show with somebody and we kept in touch or just had that connection of like
Yes.
friendship and camaraderie and yeah, it's I mean, people that like people that I've played shows with, people that have like I've talked to at our merch table, et cetera, like they're these people have been there for me when like I don't hear a word from my actual family, and that's like
Yeah.
wild, but like that's real, and that's the reality that a lot of like, I mean, my family didn't disown me because, not that I know of, because I'm like queer or trans or anything. Like they disowned me before that for like less like I don't know, like that's a shitty reason to disown anybody. I'm not saying that, but like my my family like disowned me because like of some guy that my mom married that like they don't even hardly know anymore, like shit like that. Like it's just, I don't know, it's wild. It's like,
Hmm.
sorry to bring this to that place, but it's
No,
just
it's
like
okay.
part of that whole like found family thing is like really present, I feel like, for people that play the kind of music that we do. I don't know that other music scenes necessarily have what we have in this like hardcore slash like screamo and adjacent sort of
I
community,
mean, I always thought my life was so hard. Like, I've been through it or whatever, but like, I feel like in this scene, it's like it really is found family. Like, we parent each other and we give each other, the tools that we can and the support that we can, even though we're all drowning because everyone is mentally ill. Everyone has, for the most part, has had pretty shit family or like immense trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how we've all gravitated together, but it's like out on the road, I'm having my crisis. I'm at a really low spot, and it's just my bandmates there. Essentially, like, we take turns parenting each other and making sure we're taking care of each other and holding ourselves accountable and trying to do our best. And like, I'm really grateful that this scene is like that. I don't know where I would be.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know. I mean, I mean, I don't think that I'll ever have to like, I don't think I'll ever have to choose. Like, why would I have to choose like to stop playing music? Like at this point, like it'll take different paths, right? It'll look different from year to year or whatever. But like, I don't know. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. I can't, like, I draw, I draw like comics and stuff. I make comics and stuff, but I found like no community there. It's weird, and I don't know if
Because it's
that's,
all online mostly for you, right?
yeah,
Probably.
I suppose. I mean, like I was gonna say, I don't know if that's a me thing, but it's like when I try to explore this online comics community, and then there's drama in any kind of community, but it's like
Right.
they don't have the same ethos in like DIY comics necessarily that we have in like DIY punk, like there's there's situations where like women come out against like male creators, and I take a look at the comments in that, and where in our scene you would see solidarity with the survivor. In
Of
this,
course.
it's not like that. You're like, this is horrible. Like, I don't, and I mean, obviously not everybody's like that, but I've had a hard time like finding a community there that I can resonate with,
Well,
but
it's scary to not have faith in a community or a subculture that you're a part of. Like, to be like, if something happened to me or if I was disrespected in a certain way, like, people would not care.
yeah, yeah. And that's, that's why people say that's like, people are always like, this is why you don't see, like, you know, queer creators, why you don't see, female creators, why you don't see trans creators, in, like, and you see a lot more, like, now. But, like, this is the whole thing. Like, this is why people delete their Instagrams, like trans creators, etc., in the comic world. This is why they got to get off Twitter, or they got to, I mean, like, that's old news. Like, everyone's getting off Twitter now, but, like,
I mean, like,
you know what
if
I'm
the
saying.
hardcore DIY community was like solely online, I would simply perish and I would not be a part of it, because sometimes with social media, I get the brain rot that it is the only thing that matters and it is like truly the reality, when obviously that's not the case when I go outside.
Right.
Like, being a part of this band has been such a beautiful experience, but also completely fucking hell. um, Being me, I'm like it's like I'm a plus size, like, queer, uh, Hispanic, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we have had a few videos of us go viral. And, like, while we were on the road dealing with the van and sickness and all the financial stuff and already mental toil, people were just picking me apart in comment sections. Like, they didn't know me, they hadn't even seen our band live, whatever, just talking about how ugly and fat and, like, horrible I was, and over and over and over again. And it definitely pushed me, like, to a really dark place, like, still while on the road. And I still struggle with it. Um, Definitely had people in our inboxes calling us slurs, just normal metalhead dudes. And my perception got so warped. It was like, this is what everyone really thinks. Like, I'm just a joke. Like, I'm just a fucking joke. Like, this, like, everyone just holds their tongue. But then I go to, like, an actual show in Atlanta, and I had just been spiraling. I was sobbing in the van. Like, tour was almost over. It'd been like 3 weeks. Um, was feeling really awful. I just kept being like, I don't want anyone to look at me. And my bandmates were able to talk me down and get me inside the venue. I just wasn't going to talk to anybody. I wasn't going to do banter. I was just going to play the set,
Mm-hmm.
and then go back to the van. But while we were there, Tyler took over the banter and kind of talked about the shit we'd been through online and how people were saying that we weren't a real hardcore band. And the crowd was just the coolest and kindest people, and they were all like, fuck that, and everyone was fucking dancing. Like, it was one of the best sets I've ever played, and I cried because it was just so meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, oh, in the real world, people are not, like, in this scene, people that actually go to shows, they are not evil fucking people trying to pick apart strangers. They're there for you, and they want to be involved. And it is a big support network, found family thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just really grateful. Anyway, sorry for that big tangent,
No.
but
You're here to tell your story. I'm just here to listen, and when I talk about something that people can relate to, that's cool too. Yeah, I just want to say that, like, you know, I'm really sorry that people came after you like that. I think that, especially in this day and age, like, it's mind blowing to me that people are still so superficial. You know, like, um, it's mind blowing to me that, like, the anonymity of internet spaces has made it to where people think that they can talk to people like they're not like other human beings, on this planet, just because like they have this proxy of this like screen, this keyboard. But you're absolutely right. Like no, excuse me, nobody that comes to, these shows, like everything kind of reminds you of that, like, that meme where it's like, somebody saying something really wild and then the second part like, hey, how's it going? Because you're right, it's just not like that isn't how it is like at the shows. That's not how it is when you go to shows or when you play shows or whatever. But like, people will just come on your video and say like fucked up shit, and it's like, I don't know that, like I don't think anything like that is necessarily going to change, and it's hard to
Right.
have any kind of perspective. It's like, there's almost like where we've not, like, we've never had that kind of interest. Like, it's almost like a a blessing, because I've not, then like the meanest things I've ever seen was just like people being like, yeah, I saw this band play once and they really sucked, or whatever.
Right.
Like,
That's like,
so it's cool that only 300 people ever saw this video, because like, one person had something that was only kind of mean to say, and possibly true, but like, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's something about like, the bigger lens like you have on a band or whatever, like people just come out of the woodwork to try to, like, people can't, they just can't deal with something that isn't like them, like, and not like what they want existing in the world. It's like an affront to them somehow, and I just don't,
right.
I don't get it.
It was really weird. So in the comment sections of like one of these videos of ours, there was this guy, and he was going off and off, about how horrible the band is, how I'm so fat, we don't have riffs, like, lame, cringe, posers, all that, right? And he was just really on it. He was like interacting with all the other people hating on us. He was liking all the mean comments. Like, he took hours of his life to be hateful in this comment section, and he kept watching my stories, like on my personal. So like, he went to my profile, and it was just for days and weeks and months, it didn't let up. He was like stalking me. And there was a point where he followed me, and I was like, that's, fucking weird, like, this guy's an asshole. And so I didn't follow him back. But a few months later, I still saw he was looking, and so I just I messaged him, and I didn't say anything mean, but I was like, hey, do I know you? And he was like, oh, no. And I was like, well, I remember seeing you in this comment section, and you were just really hateful. So I guess I was wondering, like, why you, I don't know, have just, like, kept an eye on me all this time. And he said, well, I actually ended up going to one of your shows. And he said, I watched your set, and I actually really liked it. And so from this 15-second clip or whatever, 20-second clip of us, he had determined he hated us so bad and that he needed to go see it for himself. And then he came up to the show and he said, yeah, I'm really sorry about that, actually.
Well, that had a more positive ending, at least.
I guess so, but that's just so crazy how many of those people, like,
yeah,
if they had just given us one chance and not completely discredit us just from how we looked or from like a tiny clip, thought they knew everything, would just go to a show.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's bigotry though, right? I mean, in whatever form it presents itself, that's the way it is, right? Like if they knew anything about you, then like they wouldn't be that way, you know? Like I mean, we you know, I used to all the time at work, you know, I would never reveal anything about myself that I didn't need to, right? And so you kind of hang back and you hear people talk about like, you know, gay people, or you hear people talk about like, you know, people like this, people like that, and they're just as nice as they can be to you, and you know, they have no idea. And it's like, this person by all accounts like likes me as a person, but if they knew this other thing about me, it would
Right.
just, you know, I mean, it would be a deal breaker. And I'm like, why is that?
I
Like,
had that
yeah.
same thing happen to me. So it's really weird. I'm kind of a fucked up Hannah Montana. Like, I'm a substitute teacher during the
Okay.
day. It's like I work with kids, like very normal job, but then I go and I tour and I play in this crazy ass band or whatever. But it's just I always forget what it's like to be around normal people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, until I have to go to my job, and I don't tell anybody really anything,
You can't
about
now, right?
what I
Not in
know.
Florida.
No, because
Yeah.
I let them dead name me. I let them misgender me for my own safety.
Yeah, you literally can't. Like, it's the law now, right? Like the school, especially in schools. Isn't that what DeSantis was
No, it's
doing?
true. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, because I have heard stories already of teachers here that were like, I'm non binary, or, I'm trans, and they got fired because
Yeah.
it was like the narrative got pushed that they were trying to, indoctrinate the kids into
Yeah.
our fucked
Yeah.
up ideology or whatever. And so I just completely suppress everything. And it's like I play a character, I play an NPC, and I kind of mold to the people around me. I'm pleasant with them and they're pleasant to me. And there was this day, like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's like I was working with this teacher who was also like a pastor, um but like big time like religious. And she might not be a bad person, maybe she's fine. And we were getting along really well, but I got so scared because I was like, what if she actually knew
Yeah.
like who I was? What would she think?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a gamble.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we all know it's like one that we shouldn't be having to, you know, make, but like that's the reality for a lot of folks now, and it's, I don't know, it is scary. Like, I I mentioned this before we started recording, and like, you know, so many people that listen already know this stuff, but like I grew up in Florida, and I when I get the chance to go back, like I really feel like, I'm back, like I'm home, and
Yeah.
I can't go back there now. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't even. It's not even like, oh, couldn't I just like dress a certain way, or couldn't I just whatever, you know? It's like that. It's just that whole thing that just says like you're not welcome here, you know, this isn't your home, like. And it's heartbreaking because like, yeah, I don't know, it's wild, like in when I get into the state, and I get out of the car, and the way it smells, like I'm transported like into,
Mm.
this is just like where I'm supposed to be. And like, yeah, I don't know, it's like, yeah, yeah, I'm
Well,
not.
it's crazy when your own home, it feels like your home is rejecting you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, Texas is very similar to, it's kind of fucked up that I just moved to Texas part two, essentially, like
Yeah.
2 years ago. I mean, I do have a lot of love for It's just hard because like our communities in the southern states are beautiful and there's amazing people like
Mm-hmm.
and such talented creatives I look up to. There's so much culture, and it's just incredible and it's really disheartening and it's like the not the wool is pulled off from under your eyes, but then you leave these little pockets and it's the real world again. And most of these people hate you and your
Yeah.
community. And which I feel really, which I know it's not perfect, in the more like quote unquote liberal states or whatever, but it was really interesting to just go to like New York uh, on tour or wherever and see so many eccentric queer people just existing like
Yeah.
loudly.
Yeah.
Here, you don't really see that unless it's like specifically at a show
Yeah.
or some kind of niche event.
Yeah. It's wild too because like you know not to go too far into that, but it's like there's always been like there's always been trans people, there's always been like people that look like weirdos, there's always been, you know what I mean, like these are my people, right? And they're like we've always been like this. But it's like I could have had this same, like I could have done the same things like when I was a teenager, and like nobody would have bat an eye. But since like being, trans or whatever has become such a political, like, you know, um, the politicians have made it a tool for them, and they're just like stoking everyone's hatred over this issue. Like, it doesn't, e- like, even people that, like, even people that like aren't like trans or whatever, like if they look a certain way or something, there's like this vitriol, and it's just like it's wild, like
Right, because then it falls into what is your political alignment. You are my enemy just
yeah,
because
yeah,
you are
yeah,
like in a
yeah,
like an alternative person.
yeah. It's like, I mean, like, like 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 dudes that, as far as I know, like identify to this day as cis, like used to be in bands like Motley Crue and stuff, and they used to basically play in like a kind of drag, and no one batted an eye. This wasn't a thing, you know. But like, if the same person, like if somebody puts on makeup and goes out like that now, it's like you might be attacked. And you're like, what? Like, what difference does
Yeah.
any of this make? And it's, like, I don't know. Like, it's weird because, you start feeling like like you almost had more freedom before you had any freedom. And I don't know how to reckon with that, but, I don't know. Yeah.
No, that's real. That's
Yeah.
real.
Um, but yeah, like, I'm happy to talk about that kind of stuff. I always, you know, there's there's a lot of podcasts where people just talk about their bands and stuff, and I think that it's cool that we can talk about stuff like that. But at the same time, we didn't even start like
Yeah, I'm so
with
sorry. We're already
no, no, it's
like an
it's
hour in and it's just
yeah, yeah, like so like let's do that. Let's start with like where, like, um you mentioned before that you had done some sort of like solo stuff where, before you really like got into playing in bands and stuff. um are you implying that, Second Impact is like your first like main band?
so I so starting off in the scene or even before, I kind of got the gumption to start going to live shows or whatever. I definitely would do like open mic stuff Or like back in school, it was like, oh, I'm playing the talent show, or oh, here's little things I wrote. I'll put it on the internet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just acoustic stuff. I did like alternative, heavier music at that point too, but I just didn't really have anyone to make that kind of stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't, but I started going to shows, and I ended up learning bass because that's, I mean, I don't know, I already knew guitar, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I could pick this up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started filling in here and there for this little hardcore band that a bunch of my friends, that I'm still friends with, the people that were in it to this day. I'm actually living with one of them, Cameron, who's now in Guilt as well. This was back in West Texas. This band called Witch Eater.
Okay.
And I would haul them around in my van all the time. And that was kind of me getting my foot in the door of actually being involved in the scene. And then me and Cameron and another member of Witch Eater and this other fella made an emo band called A Lot Has Changed. And we only played a few shows before tiny town scene drama erupted.
Mm-hmm.
And the project split up. So it was a few years kind of just dead. I did little internet projects with people here. They'd be like, do you want to throw vocals on this? I'd be like, yeah. Or I would jam with people. I would also throw, I would book a few shows here and there, like benefit shows. I started doing photography. Like, I really wanted to be involved. Obviously, then COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lull. But I moved to Florida 2 years ago. Just, I needed something different. Life was kind of ass. And I went on online. I ended up meeting Tyler Fieldhouse. That was like a week or so of me living in Florida, like only a week. And just on a whim, they saw that I knew how to play bass, and they were like, "Hey, you wanna go on tour and play Audio Tree?" And I was like, "What?" Like, my life had just completely fallen apart, and then I thought they were joking, Like, it was so insane. Like, you don't even know me, and you're giving me this offer. But I went and auditioned, and they were like, "Yep." So I had 4 seconds to learn everything, and I was still learning the music on the road. I had my tabs out on stage for the first like 2 or 3 shows. It was pretty rough.
Was
But
that a fill-in for Guilt, or was that something else?
yes,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah. So I was in that band for like half a year or so, and they ended up bringing Nico back, who was the original bassist of Guilt. And I got pretty disheartened because I just loved making music with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, wow, I'll probably never find another band again. Oh, well. And then Tyler hit me up a few months later with, hey, I've written these hardcore demos. Would you like to front this band? And now here we are.
So when did that happen? Like, y'all released your EP on Valentine's Day of this year.
Mm.
So when did Second Impact actually, like, when did y'all get together and start working on these songs and stuff?
So I was so excited because I had always wanted to front a band. Like, I had done I had done like co-vocal kind of stuff or just bass like a few times. So when Tyler asked me if I wanted to be the front person, because they knew that I'm super into hardcore, I was ecstatic. And that was in December of 2022.
Okay.
And as soon as they sent me the demos, I started picking them apart, and I immediately got to writing. I had all this stuff saved up I wanted to write about. I'd just been waiting.
Yeah.
So it finally happened, and it was just, I lived in the boonies at the time with my stepmom, and I would go into the RV in the back or like my car, and I would set up my little laptop studio and I would just scream and like on my iPhone, and then just send them voice memos and they'd paste them on there. And then we picked them apart for months until we finally got it situated. And then we started asking people to come audition or try out or whatever.
Okay, so you and Tyler were the like there were some demos where it was just you and Tyler, and then you used that as sort of like a hey, these are the songs, and recruited the rest of the band.
Essentially, it was, so the demos have like, they definitely changed like from the EP
Oh, sure.
for
Sure.
sure. But we got Joel in there, who Tyler had previously been in a band called Ugly Mascot with. Joel's also the fill-in drummer of Tala,
Okay.
and very, very talented, crack, insane guy. Getting like, the fact he wanted to come do this with us was insane. But he contributed a lot and beefed the songs up a lot. And then we got Tyler Peterson, who is a guy who put in a lot of work in the Jacksonville scene. He's in like 7,000 bands. Crazy bassist. So it was cool. Like, Joel and Tyler just immediately stuck. Like, they're original members as well. They helped with the writing a little bit, but it was like, I want to say like 90% me and Fieldhouse just to get it started.
Mm-hmm.
And we have shifted through a few lead guitarists now, but now we have Otis, and Otis is actually very excited about the project and is contributing heavily to the new stuff we're writing as well.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's wild that like inside of basically 2 months, y'all like produced. You went from zero to a full EP. Like,
I would say we probably completely like, so our first show was in July of 2023. So we got, at the time, a working member lineup and had everything flushed out by then. So I want to say it was, a 5-month process or so.
because see, I'm my brain is just now catching the fact that you said 2022, and the EP came out this year.
Yeah.
Which I'm still in my head thinking as 2023. So
No, that's okay.
So this is a way more realistic timeline now.
It all
Yeah.
kind of blurs together, really.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like, wow, I can't believe they did that in like 3 months. Like, that's wild. Yeah, way more realistic timeline, especially for everybody else to come in and like put their their own fingerprints on everything, and make their own contributions and stuff. Yeah. But still, like, yeah, to go from just like, here's some songs I wrote, like, won't you throw down some lyrics, and like to be playing shows like within 6 months, like as a fully formed thing, like that's really cool. Like, and you said that like you so the songs that you released were like basically the songs that Tyler had sent you originally. So like it basically, since you had been working on those for so long, and I'm assuming that like there you all have been writing like more as a group since then, like you must have
Mhm.
quite a head start on like your next project, then like your next release, whatever it's gonna be.
Oh, we definitely do. Tyler is just Fieldhouse is just insane. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I whipped up 75 possible demos for Guilt. All right, here's all this for us. Here's this for this other band." I don't know how they do it. It's really admirable, and I can come up with one cool riff if I bang my head against the wall for a few hours or like years, but they just pump stuff out. It's really awesome working with them. But we do currently, it's neat because now we all meet up together and we pick it apart and replace stuff, and we have to coordinate with everyone's schedules because everyone's in so many bands. But I'm really excited about this new stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Is that like sort of what's next on y'all's like itinerary? Is it like a new recording, or do you have, or are you all working on like a tour or something coming up?
Um, so definitely we really just so with all the like the online, pushback we've gotten, as well as like people locally just kind of picking us apart, like, "Oh, y'all aren't heavy enough," you know,
It's so weird.
or whatever. We're just kind of like, okay, and we are writing some absolutely crazy, cracked, bonkers, heavy stuff. But it's just rough because we have a lot of people that are like, we really love like Placeholder, which is our kind of sad emo-y song. Like so many people are like, I really relate to that. It's my favorite one, even though it's the odd one out on the EP.
Yeah, I don't know that I mean it feels real natural to me. I don't like that's just from the outside, of course, but
I appreciate that.
yeah, I think my favorite track is Nine Lives. Not that anyone asked, but um,
Oh,
yeah, I like that one a lot. And that's also has that also Nine Lives might be the reason why I feel like Placeholder doesn't stick out as that as out of place to me, is
it
because
kind of bridges it, I feel like,
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
more melodic and like groovy.
yeah,
Like it, I really, Nine Lives, I love that song a lot too. And having Asha on it that was such a treat.
yeah,
I love them a lot. They're super talented, and just really happy I got to work with a good friend of mine on that. But because of this, the mixed reviews we've gotten on everything, it's like we want to do it all even more. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we've just been kind of experimenting with the future of what our sound is going to be like.
yeah.
So we will see.
You
Because people are also scared of us. Like we've had a few people be like, "I don't want you to get too heavy because then you're not going to be you. You're just going to be like every other beat down band."
you said do even more. Do you mean like like your desire to do it is more, or do you mean like you're trying to push what you do, like the aspects of your sound, like even further than before,
I
or is it
think
both?
that's more so what I meant. Is
Yeah,
it's hard because I don't really want to lose any of it because I appreciate all the elements of what we have right now. Um, I mean, we definitely don't sound like your typical hardcore band.
yeah,
Um, and it's really easy after all the hate we've gotten for being like, you are too soft, to want to just like 100% beef it up, but then it's just, I feel like it would kind of lose the soul of what we have. So it's finding a balance.
yeah. I there was a conversation that I was having with some folks a while ago, and we started talking about like do do you think there is do you think there is an element to a music that speaks to the people who created it, in as much as, like, I jokingly said, "Oh, I can tell if there's queer people in the band when I hear the music." And,
Oh my
like, I
gosh.
said that jokingly, but I'm also, like, kind of not joking, right? Like,
No, that's a real thing.
and, like, so I'm kind of almost wondering, is that what people are saying to y'all? Like, we would like this more if this was less queer. And, like, I know you aren't saying that we're going to appease that. Like, nobody's saying, that's what, like, I'm not saying that's what I think I'm hearing from you. But, like, my question is, based on, all that rambling there, is, do you think there is a spot that you could get to that would appease those people? Because if you are agreeing that, like, there is an inherent, like, aspect of your sound that is, like, comes from being a queer band, like, do you think there's appeasing those people, or is it just like y'all are just gonna have to get used to it?
I mean, sure, maybe,
Right.
maybe some of them, but a lot of it, I think we're just gonna have to end up being like, whatever, we are what we are,
Yeah.
But I think right now it's just kind of a thing of proving people wrong and feeling
Sure.
good about about the work we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And if people still don't agree with it, then they were just set on not agreeing with it.
Yeah.
They were set on not giving it the time or the validity.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's their thing. That's not ours. So we'll just keep existing and doing our thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's, I don't, it's it's definitely a very, like, tricky thing to, like, take to take to take criticism into to heart, like, as far as, I'm not talking about, like, any of, people's shitty, comments about, like, although sometimes, like, any shitty comment, it's hard not to take it to heart, but, like, as far as, like, what people like about, your what you're doing musically, and how, even, like, sometimes it's just like, it doesn't even have to do with what people think. It's just like, you're a new band and everybody's just getting to know each other and how each other, um, works. And so it's like, yeah, we all feel like we didn't push ourselves that far in this direction, and we want to go further, or whatever. And, yeah, I don't know, I'm always interested in, like, these perspectives, as far as, like, you know what do we think about, like, can you manufacture a sound that isn't just inside you already? I think it's really interesting because, like, I always say, like, oh, I tried to make a band that sounds like this, and, in the end it didn't sound like that, which is fine for me. But yeah, it's a real, like, making music is complicated.
Yeah.
But, yeah, sorry, to go on that tangent there.
No, you're okay.
But,
I
yeah,
appreciate your insight.
uh so, is what is all of this music, like, coming, what are the plans for it, as far as, um what you've been writing and what you've been working on? Is there a goal, or is it just like, as of now, it's just like, keep working on these songs? Like, are you trying to gear up for an LP or another EP, or?
Oh, so we definitely are very interested in maybe a split
Oh, okay.
with some friend bands. Um, a lot of the lyrical content of some of the stuff that's coming out is just like responses to shit people have said about us. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, well, here's what we have to say about that. But we really just we're gonna tour more for sure. We have something coming up later in the year. We are playing Florida Rules Fest and also Muddy Roots, and so we are planning a tour around that, and we'll have our new music. We'll be playing our new music at that point, which is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I really had a nice time chatting with you, even though we did not talk about nice things all the time. But that's
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry. I feel
no,
kind
no,
of
it's not.
bad.
It's not. It's like I said. It's not anything you should feel sorry for. I mean, like, um, we all kind of get into this music, I think, a lot of times because we're like, the world fucking sucks. I want to scream about it, right? And then so, like, yeah, we're here because of that. And then sometimes, like, what what we're screaming about comes back at us again, and we're like, this is why we're here, but it's we didn't solve the problems by screaming out about it, right? So, we
Right.
just got to be there for each other and listen to each other, and that's what we're doing. So, um, I mean, you know, uh, the best times as a person who does this show is when people message me and they say that something that we chatted about, like, that they could relate to it. And a lot of times it's like, I'm like, I wish that you could not relate to that because it was not something that you want people you care about to relate to. But it makes
Right.
people feel less alone. It makes people feel like they're not the only ones that
I
goes
mean,
through these things. So
that's why I write like the type of lyrical content that I do. Um, because I've been a very lonely person for
yeah,
like a good chunk of my life, and I know a lot of people in this scene can relate to a lot of the struggles of, like the mental health struggles with like
yeah,
having like BPD or PTSD, or being queer, or being in, you know, really unsafe spaces with people who are abusive.
yeah,
Um, so that's kind of, which it's kind of a lot to put out there. Like, I feel like I definitely sometimes am too much of an open book, but I have had people at the same time come to me and say, I so relate with this. Thank you.
yeah,
And I'm at least happy for that.
yeah,
I just want community, and I want people to feel represented.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, that's, like, we're not gonna like get rich and buy houses doing this stuff. We're so like, if we if what we do touches somebody, if somebody starts their own band because of it, or somebody, like, somebody has a better day, because they related to something, and then they know they're not the only one going through that. That's all I really can ask for. um
It's really sweet to It's been kind of sweet, like going on Spotify and seeing the playlists we've been added to. And there was this one playlist that really warmed my heart. It was these people making a band, and it was like sound inspirations, and we were on there, and that really just, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
oh yeah, that's really cute.
We're just a little band.
For sure. um So, like, as we wrap this up, is there anything else that we should chat about before we take off, or should we just like direct people to y'all's Instagram to find out more about those shows coming up? Or
um yeah, definitely Instagram is the spot to see what's going on with us. We do also have a TikTok that Otis has been working very hard to, figure out the algorithm of and everything, but they've been
Mhm.
having a lot of fun with it. So we do have that, but Instagram is where you could find all of our shows and tours and etc.
Okay, do
coming
they
up.
both have the same handle, or what are the handles
Yes,
on them?
it's at Second Impact FL.
And that was my conversation with Juni Morantes. Thank you so much, Juni, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Until next time, take care and do good things.